All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Deborah and Erik. My name is Claudio, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. From the studios in Fairfax City. We're very grateful that Deborah, Martin, and Erik Wøllo accepted our invitation to our show. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Erik, let me start with you. Were you, for people that don't know you, make an introduction. Were you born like in a musical family, or were you, the type of kid that, was listening, going around the house, touching D, trying to play the guitar, trying to learn piano and so forth? How music into your life?
Started to play guitar at 11, I think. Yeah, and it was more the heavy stuff like Deep Purple and heavy rock that caught my attention. So, and then I went more into fusion, played a lot of fusion music.
Yeah.
So from 1980, I became a professional here in Norway and did a lot of touring, composing, releasing. Yeah. So in the middle of the 80s, I created my own studio. So then I quit all the bands and just focused on the electronic and composing. So then I guess I was more into the atmospheric and ambient music, and I've been there ever since. So,
Good for you. And you have released over, I think, 50 records, right? Man, you are very prolific.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's my daily work. I get so much positive response all over the world.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's growing, so it's very rewarding work. Kind of. Yesterday I got an email from a man. He was. I get a lot of emails, and with fan letters every day almost. So.
That's great, like we say before, and there were music, and to me, I will talk personally, music has given me so much satisfaction in my life. I don't play an instrument, I don't know how to read music, but since I was a little kid, I began listening to music and then buying records and eventually coming to the United States, and I listen to music at least 2 hours a day. I'm a computer scientist, so I do this for passion. I got a day job, as they say here in the United States, and but I couldn't live without music. I couldn't live without going to concerts, see live band, and I think it's what perhaps make us human being. Try to explore, or you put your headphone and you drink a beer or a glass of wine, and then when I go to a lot of movies, so I listen to a lot of soundtrack, and there's a lot of movies that I never seen, right? But I listen to the soundtrack, and you put your headphone, and your minds go places. You can travel, with the music. So it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, I think the music we do on Spotify Peccary and project, and this style is becoming more and more important for people, because if you look at the world and all the politic shit around, so people need something that's not political, just spiritual music, so they can kind of have something in their daily life that is uplifting, kind of.
Absolutely, man. We live in crazy time, and maybe the world's coming to an end, or I don't know. It's still, Ukraine and Russia and Palestine and Israel, and I try to. I'm the type of guy that prefer to ignore the news and live like in a bubble and live in ignorance, if you will, because then instead you consume it with social media bombarding you on CNN and who is going to be the next president or this or that, you go crazy with stuff, so right, it's better to
I started the day just looking at the news just once a day,
Yeah,
not
I
more.
suppose. Great. Yeah.
And then I got
How
into
you,
my
sure. How the two of you met, Deborah? I mean, this is the second collaboration that the two of you have worked together, right?
Yes. Well, we actually, this is a long ways back, Erik. We've known each other for many years, but
Yeah.
Erik came actually when Howard, myself, and John Jenkins were the Spotted Peccary, head people. It's our label. And way long time ago, we discovered Erik's music through Urok, Archie Patterson. And he had a label called Urok, and he would bring artists in from overseas to introduce them in the United States. And there was an album, and it's still one of my favorites, called Solstice, that Archie had put out. And so we were listening to it, and I'm like, oh my God. And then Erik had just released Guitar Nova. That was a long way back. And he had put out this Guitar Nova album, and we were listening to it, and Howard and I were, and JJ, we were talking and said, oh, this artist is fantastic. He would be perfect to be part of the Spotted Peccary label because we wanted to expand. The label was based in the Pacific Southwest.
Yeah.
The North American music is what was the premise of our label, bringing attention to the forms in the Pacific Southwest, the desert, and all of that area with the Brain Laughter album that came out. And so we want to expand that. And so we created this sub-label that's now just integrated. It's all Spotted Peccary music now, called Wanderings. And we took some Peccary footprints and used it as the logo for it. And that meant Wanderings. So we realized that we're not the only artists that want to do this. All around the world, there are artists that think like we do, and they want to do music that's sustaining, very fulfilling, that's like Erik had just said, not political, not making any statement other than the beauty of the music that got created. So we reached out to Erik, and I think Howard had spoke to you and was talking about Guitar Nova, and we wanted to introduce him with the Guitar Nova album. Even though he had already released it, we redid it and used the same cover art, which was a beautiful drawing, Erik, the guitar drawing. And I think
that's
your
my
son
son.
did
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, he was little. He was little then. He's all grown now, but he was a few years old, and he did this guitar drawing, and that's the cover art. A beautiful album. So
Yes.
we redid it and signed Erik. And then I remember Erik flew out and went to Southern California, where our label was based at that time, stayed in the house. We went to some Ren fairs, and I made Erik dress up as a pirate kind of, and we went to a Renaissance fair, and we just were having a blast. It was all about just being creative and being in each other's company. And most importantly, just being able to do the music. And we wanted, Erik wanted to meet us. We wanted to meet him, and we had a wonderful time, and we hung out, got his album going, and the rest is history. Of course, Erik went on back to Norway and so on and so forth. So we've known each other for many years. What year did that? That was a long time ago. Guitar Nova.
2001 or something.
Something like that. It was 2000,
20-something years
2001.
ago. Wow, wow. Yeah.
But that's when it was re-released from when
Yeah, the album was released in 1997.
Yeah, and that's about the time, 98, 99, when we did what we did, and Erik came to see us. And then we started talking, and I was in touch, Erik, we talked, but you were staying in touch with JJ and with Howard and everything, and working on other music. And I wanted to do an album with Erik so much because I loved the energy, the creation. And so we talked about doing a project about the Ice Maiden or the Ice Princess. Remember, Erik? And we still have some of the original stuff of that, but we haven't done anything with it. And we were starting to work on that while he was in Norway. I was still in Southern California. And then all of a sudden, Erik contacted me. I think, Erik, you were doing a lot in education and things as well. He does many things, Claudio. And apparently the Norwegian government had offered him a grant of some kind to work on something with American Indian music, which is one
Yes.
of their passions. So he
Mhm.
said, why don't we do something with that instead? And that was fine because I was already going to the reservation and working a lot with American Indian tribes for a long time. And my Under the Moon album that came out in 95 was very directly related to that. So I said, well, okay. So we did. We just started doing that. And Erik flew out to California, stayed for some time in the condo that I was in at the time with Chris. And we spent some time talking about it, and then we traveled to the Southwest. We went to many places, the Beshbagoa, we went to Casa Grande, we went to the reservation, we also went for a few days to Sonoita, where Steve Roach was at the time, because Erik was also wanting to work with him on some stuff. And so the timing of it, I was able to coordinate with Steve, letting him know Erik was coming, and we arranged so that he could have a couple days with Steve so they could do what they were doing. And Steve ended up putting some stuff on our project. So it
I
was
see.
beautiful.
Wow.
It was perfect.
First,
And
yeah.
we went to the Indian reservation in White River in northeastern Arizona. He met Edgar Perry and some of the Perry family. We stayed there. We recorded there. We went out to the Kinishba ruins, which is where this album is, which is on the reservation, which is a very, very, very old Puebloan. It was pre-Puebloan. It's very old. And the Mogollon Indians and so on were there. And so we had so many recordings from that time that we ended up doing the Between Worlds album. It was wonderful. And I remember the main thing about it was we wanted the authenticity. Erik was able to obtain some cylinder recordings from 1897 that we had permission to use on a couple of the tracks. And I sculpted some stuff around it. Erik put things on there as well and composed it. And we were able to do that. We wanted authenticity on a historical perspective. And I will say one of the things that remember, Erik, you had called me and you said, I'd really like to have Carlos Nakai on this album to give us the authenticity because he plays the flute and everything. So I contacted Carlos's wife, Pam, and spoke with her several times. And I sent her a whole outline of the project of what we were going to do and how we wanted it to be very authentic. And we wanted American Indians on the project. And she read everything and called me back a week later after we had already spoken. And she goes, Deborah, this project sounds fantastic. However, you don't want Carlos on your project. And I said, we don't? Why? Erik really would like this. Why not? And she goes, because if you do, it won't be authentic. Because American Indians don't play flute.
I see. I see.
It's
Yeah.
not part of their heritage. 2,000 years ago, they would play reed instruments, perhaps, or things like that, but they would do other sounds. They didn't play, quote, flutes. So I said, really? She goes, yeah, if you put him on there, then it won't be authentic. If you want real American Indian sounds and real American Indian recordings, you need to use what you have, but don't put a modern player. And I said, well, if it's not authentic, why is he doing it? And she goes, oh, he loves the flute. He loves it. That's why.
I see. I see.
So it was very interesting. And so I was disappointed at one point. I was kind of sad because I had to let Erik know that Carlos was not going to be on our project because he chooses what projects he wants to be on. But because of our description about wanting it to be very authentic and everything we did was live. We didn't contrive or make up sounds. Everything on that Between Worlds album was the real deal from where we were. And then after we got all the recordings together, then I went to Norway and the album was mixed at Erik's place. So it was kind of like a Crocodile Dundee experience. The big 6-foot Norwegian came to America. We went all over the place. And then me, the American, went to Norway to learn about all the Norwegian stuff while we mixed the album. And then it came out and it got wonderful reviews and it's still beautiful. And so years later, after the passing of Edgar and some of his family members, COVID was a terrible time. There was a gathering on the reservation that I was invited to attend and speak on behalf of the family and stuff, because I go there every year and bring supplies and things. It's just something I've always done. So 30 years, of doing that. And so I went, and while I was there, I was able to do some recordings of Edgar's brother-in-law, Prince George, who's Navajo. He's Navajo of the Sihi people, the Salt people clan. And he was from Shiprock, and he loves flutes, and he would use handmade wooden different flutes made of cedar or different woods. And so I asked, he was playing a song that he had made for Edgar at this gathering. And I listened to it and I said, Prince George, is it okay if I record this? And I'd like to record you. So he said, oh, yes, I would love that. So we spent a whole day, and I recorded a lot of tracks. And then when I got back, I sent them to Erik so that he could listen to them. The recordings, he's not a professional like Carlos Nakai, but his heartfelt emotion and what he described that the songs were about was so beautiful. And so Erik carefully went through, because that's his expertise in terms of making sure the sound was good that we could use. And he audited all the tracks, and he chose the ones that were, the recordings were great, the perfect in terms of the audio quality, but the sounds, but the nature of the recordings, the composition, he picked the best ones and used those parts that are now on the Kinishba album. So it's great. It was a labor of love.
And those flute parts, they're kind of very basic, kind of have a very primitive feeling, very far from Carlos Nakai, and that's suits the project very nice, I think, because as Deborah said, the flute is not part of the Native American culture. It's a very new thing, but I guess they had some flute way back in the history. So that's what I had in mind. I wanted to make something very, very primitive flute expression, and I guess, and then we put modern stuff on top of it to make it.
No, and absolutely, and I was reading that it requires a lot of research to do it well, right? You can do something meaningless in a couple of months, or you can do something meaningful in a year after all the research going back and forth, recording it, perfected, and then pinging Erik. What do you think about that track, and remaster it again? You're going back to you guys. They were on. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it definitely come across as that way, And not only that, but it's great music. But the other thing that I really like this is the album that we talking about. It comes with this, beautiful booklet, if you will, inside, where every track, right, like Spiral and the Nature's Path and Mountain Spirit, it came across with the picture and the lyrics and how it came together, and it's very, very well done, very, very well done, very well done. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. I know you guys, put a lot of effort and was released recently. What had been, how you measure, Deborah, how successful an album is? Once an album, by whatever, this album in particular or another one is released on whatever, March 1st or whatever, that is, it's a lot of PR behind the scene, is sent to different radio station, and then how you measure success in an album?
That's a very good question, actually, because there are so many differing opinions on that. There are a lot of folks that think the success is based on how much they can sell or how much money they make from it. Okay, we didn't come at it from that perspective, but it is getting a lot of recognition because of the historical accuracy of it and the authenticity of it. And the reviews, we've gotten many reviews, and they're all just excellent 4 or 5-star ratings saying this is just fantastic. We need more of this, everything. For me, a success of an album is the satisfaction of working with, in this case, with Erik. We're both very proud of this project. This is something to be proud of because this is leaving a legacy, not just for us as creators, but for the peoples that it represents. This is for them that we did this, as well as the creation. And how do you know what's a success? By what comes back from it. I think the success is in the wonderful reviews, the airplay. We did mail out quite a few promotional copies to various reviewers and radio stations. We do that on every release that we do because we want to support the artist as much as we can. And then all of a sudden we hear back, and we've been on several interviews. The one that we just recently did, Erik, was it like a week or two ago, was with John at the Morning Breeze in Colorado. And he was talking about the historical aspects and the authenticity of the album. And he called us, I love this term, and I'm going to phrase it because I love it. He called us ambient archaeologists.
Yeah, sounds about right,
He termed us as ambient archaeologists because of all of the years of research and study that we put into this. We incorporated all the time we spent doing the Between Worlds, but this album took a couple of years of putting together all of the recordings from what we had from before that never got used, plus what we did recent to add to it, and all of the I would just say all of the talks, the writings we did. How did we want to create and come up with something that was going to be as authentic as Between Worlds and even deeper? We wanted to go deeper, and we also wanted to honor all of the chants that Alfredo Way, Lino Edwards, that Edgar did, and bring that to life again and make it as good as, and then having Prince George on it was just a wonderful thing because he's part of their family. He married one of Edgar's younger sisters, Julie. So he lives up on the White River Reservation now, and he just loves that. So it's very, very good. But we've been very blessed, I think, to have this opportunity to share this and work.
Absolutely.
For me, that's the success, is that we were able to do it, and people have just been astonished, saying, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible." So for me, that's a success. And yes, we are selling, the album is selling, but we don't ever know. It's so new, we won't know, how it will do in terms of that. But in terms of the accomplishment, in terms of our contribution, I think, to the musical world, I think is very important. So I feel very, very happy. I think it's a great success in terms of that.
And it's to make an album, it's like to build a house. If you put a lot of effort in it and using good materials, it will be there for a couple of 100 years. And the same with music. The more solid it's going to survive, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is a masterpiece. I'm quite sure that eventually people will like to see a Kinishba Part 2, because I'm quite sure you guys recorded more than whatever 10 or 12 tracks. No, 10 tracks, right? And you probably you don't want to mention, but the question is going to be a Part 2 of this album, because this is very good, very, very good. And
thank you. Thank you so much. There's a lot of recorded material on it and everything. And something we should describe, and Erik, I want to say it because it's important. The cover art that you have there of that was Erik's wife did that artwork for us.
Really?
Yes, it's beautiful. And what that represents, if you look at that actually looks like a wikia, which is the house that they build on the Apaches live in it. And if you look in the booklet in the artwork pictures, you will see a real wikia in the background of pictures that we took while we were there.
Yeah.
And hers is like a Picasso of that
Yeah.
is what. And when Erik first sent it to me, he said, "Oh, Elizabeth did these drawings. What do you think?" And I said, "That's our cover. That has to, it
That's
looks
it.
just like the Wikia, but a futuristic one." So that's a hopeful piece in my book in terms of, it's giving a future look to what it could be, very modern, but yet we have the ancient by the pictures in the booklet that show what the Wikia looks like.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
so it ties things together, the modern and the old and everything. And we're just so proud of it, just so proud of it. So,
So what about I'm taking the lyrics for Burial Ground when you describe here I am, here at the stay, oh great spirit come to me, here I am in eternity. How you come out with this or where
well,
original to them? Yeah.
a very vivid imagination, I guess. But
Yeah.
I wrote a poem for that song.
I see.
I wanted to place myself. What if I was the person buried in the ground in an Indian burial ground? And Erik and I did have the honor of being able to go to some of the burial grounds up there. He went to some at Fort Apache. I actually went to where the Indian burial grounds are on the reservation. The family took me there, and I was able to be there at Edgar's, where he is laid to rest. And so I started thinking about that and say, what if I was the person in the burial ground? What would I be looking at outwards to my people or to my, I have now become part of the ancestral circle of who came before. And so I started thinking about that. And I thought, well, if I wanted to say something to people who are still alive, what would I say? And I wanted it to be so respectful and so honoring of that process. So here I am and here I stay physically. Yes. And then, oh, great spirit, come to me is reminding people that we all have the sacred within us. If we just access it and share that with the planet, but once you've gone from the physical realm, the Great Spirit is still always there, traversing around the planet between all of us. That's, again, that connectivity. And so I was just trying to think if I was going to give a message to them, and here I am in eternity, it was like the spirit who was there in the burial ground is speaking to the people that have come after them. And I was trying to make it for all of those in the burial ground, speaking as
Absolutely.
one voice. So that's where that came from. And I wrote it as a poem, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to sing it to this track and see what happens with it. And so I had to, come up with a little melody for it. And
no, it's beautiful. I wonder what Indian reservations think about our civilized world, quote unquote, where we use different type of technology, car and automobile and this and that, and maybe we're going backwards, So it's people here are using tablet, iPhone, texting. The kids don't talk to one another. Also, the world in the Indian reservation, they don't have that level of technology, I suppose, and they have we destroy the white people, destroying the world, and it's crazy, So
I don't know. What is amazing to me is the resilience.
Mm-hmm.
The resilience of survival and how they've managed to create their world again and again and again. And they've become, many of them are very educated. They go to colleges and universities, and then they go back to the reservation to try and share that with the people that are still living there. The elders didn't get those opportunities as much, but the younger folks are doing that. And I love that. And I actually love going there because every time I go, there's some new change or some new development or some new program, or, it is wonderful. And one of Edgar's daughters, one of his older daughter, Evangeline, she was instrumental in getting me back there to, be with the family and be there for the gathering they did a couple years ago. And she's now the principal at the high school in White River at Altusay High School. She was
Oh, wow.
in McNary, and McNary is where Edgar's mother is laid to rest. And she was a principal at the school there, but now she's back in White River. I love that. Very educated. All of her sisters are all very educated. So it's kind of nice to see that. And there it is. But they are very resilient, and I just want to honor that. And they appreciate so much when there is a respect towards them. And I've always been very respectful. And Erik, when we were up there, I always bring gifts. They weren't gifts, they were more supplies, school
Absolutely.
supplies, things that they have trouble getting, clothing, things that they don't always get. And I've been doing that for years. I actually have a big box packed up right now of clothing that'll be going there, and some other supplies because I won't be going there. I'm going to try to go there this fall. I might end up going next year. There's going to be a puberty ceremony coming up for one of the younger girls, and I've been invited to go to that. I don't know if they will let me do any filming or documenting of it, but we'll see. And just to be able to be a part of it will be very honoring. So if I can make that, I want to do that. And Erik, you would be welcome to go to the reservation, of course, with me at that time, but I don't know that they would allow you at the ceremony or not. I'll have to find out, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Because Deborah, you're adopted, you know.
That's true. They did adopt me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Many years back, probably 15, 18, 20 years ago, I was on the reservation that particular time and visiting with Edgar and his mother, and in McNary in the home there. And I was there, and we were doing a lot of cleanup work at different places on the reservation and doing things at the school. And Edgar was teaching some of the doctors up there. They have to speak Apache if they're going to work at the clinic there. They have to speak English and Apache. So if you're a doctor and work there, you have to speak the language, because the elders, they don't, understand.
They all don't speak, of course.
They don't. So we were there, and all of Edgar's daughters were there. Well, 4 of them. One of them was working, but 4 of the daughters and Edgar's mother and Edgar. And then I think Leonard might have been there, one of his brothers. But we're standing around and we're visiting and we're talking, and all of a sudden Edgar's mother starts doing this and speaking in Apache. And I didn't know what was happening, but the daughters go into another room, and then they come back. And one of them handed me a blanket, which I have in my studio, a beautiful blanket. And then another daughter handed me 2 outfits of the Apache clothing. It's the skirt and the top that they wear, 2 different ones. And then she said some other words, and they were just standing there looking at me. And then Edgar handed me a necklace made of beads, from the beads that they find up there, wherever they gather seeds and beads.
Yep.
And presented me with that and a pair of white deerskin moccasins, handmade, that he had sewn. Beautiful. And they're the traditional garb. And he handed them to me, and then his mother started speaking again. And then they all hugged me and everything, and I went, well, this is lovely. What do I owe all these gifts? And he goes, well, we just adopted you into our family. I went, what? I didn't know. And it was beautiful. And we shared food and stuff. It was just very, very, it was very moving to me, because what that meant is that they really accepted me completely as to who I was, and that I was part of them. And Edgar used to keep saying, the first time he ever met me, he told me that that the old ones told him that I was coming. And that was when I was back working on Under the Moon. He said, oh no, the old ones told me you were coming. And he knew my name. I had never met him before.
Really?
He knew my name. He said, Deborah, yeah, they told me you were. And I kept asking him who, and he goes, the old ones. The old ones. He goes, yeah, you're on Asazi from 2,000 years ago. And they told me you were coming here. Isn't that weird? It was weird to me at the time, believe me, but now I'm fine with it. Okay, so I have Anasazi blood in me.
Maybe you need to learn the language, their language.
Oh, I do speak a little bit of the Apache. I studied
Apache,
when I was up there, and I know some of the things. And when I'm hanging out with them, I just flow into it, and I can understand a lot. But
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty interesting.
It's a hard
Yes.
language to learn, I guess. It's
The phrasing, the phraseology.
very different, very different. And
Yeah.
that's because of that they accepted you and adopted you. That made it easier for us to come there and record them.
Oh yeah,
And
we were able to go
we
everywhere.
spent a month up there, and
Yeah.
traveled around. So yeah, it's not
Yeah, we
easy
got
for
to.
everyone to come there and record them. I mean,
No.
they're very suspicious,
Yes.
kind of. Yeah. So
We got to go to places that most people are not allowed to go to. Edgar took us out to various locations, but I had been there out camping with them where they're allowed to go, out in the wilderness, not at a campground. We went out. For years I've done all of those things, and I cooked with the women, and we built wikias, and we went gathering things, and we, I got to see so many amazing, incredible things. And when Erik and I were there, we had some great experiences as well. And we got to see some wonderful places. So it's hard to describe everything because you just feel it, but it's what an enriching experience. What an opportunity. I really wish that if all of the kids that were growing up could have these kinds of experiences, their lives would be so enriched and they would see the value of sharing and cooperation and collaborating with other individuals. And it doesn't become you're in this family or you're in this tribe, so we can't have anything to do with you. It doesn't become that at all. It all becomes one. And that was just so beautiful. And Erik was accepted completely,
Really?
Oh yeah, because we were hanging out. They knew we were working on a project, and Edgar would talk with you. He was sharing with him in his way. It was great, and
Yeah.
I was very interested in Norway and the Vikings. I remember.
Yes. Yeah, I had
Warriors.
questions. Yep.
Yeah. And
They
you
were
mentioned
sharing.
something very interesting, Deborah. You say that you were allowed to go to, places that in general people are not allowed to. One is an honor that you were accepted, and two, you were shown that side that few people know about that, and it's wonderful. It's beauty. You go to New York and you see lights everywhere and noise and people walking at 3 o'clock in the morning, tall buildings and cars and so forth, Wall Street, Manhattan, all the money and all the banks. But it's that is beauty, but also where you were, right, in Navajo reservation, and nature, and in some places no electricity, and it's so much it's so much perhaps better, different but better, have beauty and live out of the land and only take what you need, and
Yes.
you live model life like you say before. Will be great to take kids in high school from different part in California or in Washington where you live, and then take it from there. Take a week, take like a week. Take a week of your busy life of buildings and cars and tablet and cell phone, and leave everything behind at home. Just take a a backpack, and then I will show you another side of the world, right? And I think people will change a lot. People will come back and they say, "Man, what kind of world I was living in before I went to these places." I never been there. I would like to maybe one day. And Steve Roach, I interviewed him. I don't know, like 2 months ago, and he was describing that. The no Navajo reservation, but we're talking about Arizona and his world, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable.
Well, yeah,
And
he got to experience.
yeah, and if you can't go to those places, you have the music. You can go into the imaginary world. It's
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We wanted to create that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dora. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to create that world for, like what Erik said. If you can't go there, at least you can experience the
Exactly
feeling of
right.
it. and they could go right into it. And by giving the booklet with imagery and descriptions, if we could have put more in there, I would have had a 50-page booklet, because there's so much history there, so many
Absolutely,
things. But there's nothing quite like it. I did actually get to, if Edgar was busy, or his daughters or the family, if they were all busy doing things during the day, he would tell me, oh, just go explore wherever you want. They know you're here. That's fine. And I would. And there's been a couple times tribal police would come up, and I would be out in the middle of nowhere, and they would look at me and go, oh, hey, how are you doing? And I'd go, hi. Yeah, Edgar said just to go and explore. He goes, oh, yeah, we know you're out here. You're fine. We're just checking up on you, making sure you're okay. And I said, oh, yeah, this is great. So that was the thing. They even though I never met those people, they knew who I was. They knew that there was a woman up there that was allowed to go anywhere. And I actually spent one night by myself. I drove out to Kinishba, and Erik's been there, so he knows. And I just took my car out there, parked it in the middle of one of the raw areas, and I stayed the entire night. And I slept in my car with the windows open, and you could hear all of the sounds. And I woke up once. It was probably, I don't even know what, it had to have been like 3 or 4 in the morning. And in the distance, I could hear the drum beats. They were doing some kind of a powwow or some sort of a sweat lodge somewhere on the reservation, but the sound carries across the canyons. So I was listening to it, and it was primal. It was primal. And I'm like, this is what it was like 1,000 years ago. That is what it was. Very cool. And it was pitch dark. You could see every star in the sky, and you could hear the cicadas. You could hear the night sounds. And it was the most incredible thing, because I felt like this is where I belong. And I've always been drawn to that place. I can't explain why. For 30, 40 years, I've been going up there, and I'm drawn there. And I think that this project here, Kinishba, is a project of that. It's culminated into this beautiful, project because of that. And I know, Erik, you had said you felt the energy in that place when we were there. It's very powerful. Very powerful.
It is. Yeah. And
I think someone need to be here to experience that. It's you cannot describe, right? You can listen to the music, but like you say, you were in the car in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
No problem. Nothing happened to you when you hear the drum beat in the background and the beautiful star, and you will see the galaxies and Milky Way, and unbelievable, man. It's a beautiful.
I was very safe. I knew that I was safe. No matter where I went, I was safe there. And they all knew, the tribe, they knew I was there. Whoever saw me, they would wave and whatever, but that was it. So
wow, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. It was very. I know that if for Erik it's kind of late, might be over 10 o'clock his time, but right.
It's okay.
You're a night owl.
You're a night owl, yeah. You're
a night owl.
No problem.
So what for in the record, for the record label point of view, Deborah, what is it? Are you always looking for new artists, and how you? So how people that don't know your record label can join your record label, and then how you manage to select, well, that type of music, it could work well with our record label, but that type of music, whatever that means, it's not a great fit. How you're evolving, how you're growing. I mean, if you look 10 years ago, how many artists did you have, and then how many you have right now, and so forth? Well,
we started with very few artists, and Erik is one of the early artists. He's one of the ones who helped build, and is still with us. But he also does, like I said, he's with Project and stuff. And I think Sam probably gets the same thing. We get a lot of people. They'll send an email and say, hey, check out my SoundCloud page. That's what you're like, what? That's it. No, we get lots of those. And I'll take some time each week. I'll put aside a little bit of time, and I'll check it out, and I'll go, what is this? And it has nothing, of course, to do with what we're doing, but they're just trying to, they'll do bulk emails out to whoever and hope that someone will catch them, like fishing. You cast out in the water
That's
and
right.
see what comes back. So, and then we'll usually send back a polite, well, thank you very much. And some of the stuff we get is, Erik, I know you'll agree with this, is not so good of a quality.
Yep.
It might be a 16-year-old who's just gotten a new computer and is playing and goes, look, I made an album. I got to send this out. It could be like that, which is
That's
fine
right.
because they're discovering what they can do. And there's nothing
Sure.
wrong with that. Absolutely. Creation is its own thing for whoever's doing the creation. But then we do get some established artists who will send things to us, but they're already pretty established. And sometimes they will send us stuff just because they want to get their album out to more people to sell more, that's not a negative thing. They just want to, they're saying, well, I already got all this out here. Maybe you guys will take this one and then maybe I'll get more people to get, So it just depends. But right now we're not so much signing new people. We did do the Dark Sky Alliance one, and we just signed Atopus, which is Brian Hughes's Atopus, because his music is so in line with this style. And he has a couple albums out already on his own, but he really wanted to belong in a family of artists that could help him to continue his growth. And that's one of the things that we do. We help artists to grow, like Dark Sky Alliance. We're going to be introducing them and helping them get their group out to the world, So usually if we get somebody that sends us something with a nice email saying, hey, I've just done this album. I really think that you guys should put it out because I'm just the greatest thing in the world and I need to be on your label and stuff, whatever they say. We'll listen to the music, and then usually I end up responding to a lot of them, but some of the other Spotted Peccary people on our team will respond if, whoever gets it will respond. And we'll ask them to go to our label page. We will ask them to listen to all of the music that we have out there and then listen to what they created and see if it seems to be in that flow of energy. And if it's something that would be a fit, we ask them to go back and do a little more work on it. So, because I think that's important for them to realize and recognize what it is that they're actually doing and how does it pertain, and is it just because they want to become a rock star, or is it because, and we've gotten some submissions that have been just totally not something that we would put out, hip hop, rap and stuff. And we'll usually say, you need to go maybe try this label or try here and here, because the genre of music is, different for what we're doing. So it's difficult. And we try very hard to answer everybody. We do give them that respect. Even the kids that say, hey, check out my SoundCloud page. It's hard.
But everybody who eventually made it, so to speak, and joined the record label is there for life because they see the quality of what you guys provide as well. So it's a well run, well defined record label and great art, great fun. They say before, this is very good, very well put together, detail oriented. That's what I like. It's very, very well run. Deborah. I mean, you guys put a lot of hours, a lot of effort into making sure that every album, not just this one, but is remastered, and the logos and the font and the picture. You can tell very well refined, right? Very well refined. So you're a lucky guy, Erik, to be part of this.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm used to run my own label many years ago, and I also got a lot of letters from people, very weird letters, So there's everybody wants to get their music released on a label, So I know that feeling to get all these letters. So,
And the only you know, nowadays with a computer, you can do everything your own. Maybe great or maybe not great, but you can create a CD and put it together. But it's the other side, the coin is the distribution, right? It's
Yeah,
if you cannot do it on your own. You cannot, very difficult to right. If you want to sell 10 CDs or vinyl, well, yeah, you can sell it to your friends and cousin, uncle, and that's it. But you know, in a mass production, you need to have very good distribution channel to put it out there, you know, and somebody to do the work. And if you're a musician, either you're a musician or you run the business are two different things.
Yeah.
It's hard to do both at the same time, right? So
it's, you know, for me, I spend the whole day composing and creating, so I don't have the time to run
exactly,
a label.
right.
So that's
Yeah.
why I need a label.
Mm.
You know.
Absolutely, man. All right, it was very nice talking to you, Erica. Eric, very nice talking to you, Deborah, again. Thank you very much for all your help, and I enjoy talking to you every time. And you keep coming back with great artists, and one after the other. I don't know how you manage, how you do it, but it's great. I'm very happy to help you out here and there with some interviews, and I'm very interested in the other project that you have coming up, and you know, and we cannot talk until next week, and but I'm looking forward to, and all the names that you mentioned is that, you know, people that are admired for many years. So definitely I want to.
You'll hear
Would you-
from Beth.
Thank
Beth will get in touch with you, so you'll know about that. But in the
That's
meantime,
right.
Eric and I are just going to keep doing what we do. We love it.
Absolutely.
Music is so
Absolutely.
important, and if I'm sure that if the opportunity of our timing and our schedules arises, we'll end up doing something else together. I hope. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
coming back to Norway and seeing the trolls again. Oh,
Sure, sure.
trolls.
Absolutely. I hope that works out. I hope that
Oh,
works
yeah.
out.
Yes.
It was very nice talking to you guys. Have a great afternoon. And
Thank you,
great.
Claudio.
Thank
You
you.
No
too.
problem. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Eric.
Thank you.